Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. Here we are in University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and we are going to have our first forum of the year for 2026. But before that, let me tell you one short story. Imagine in the middle of a busy street in Kuala Lumpur, there's a young boy or young man named Ali waits for his phone to buzz in his next job. Like over a million other Malaysians, Ali is a gig worker who enjoys the freedom of choosing his own hours. But he also worried about his future because he doesn't have the same protections, the same privilege as a normal office workers. So his story is why we are here today. Today, we are going to discuss about the gig economy in Malaysia. First of all, my name is Amal Zafran bin Ali, and I'm your moderator for today's forum. So, what is gig economy? Basically, gig economy is a labor market structure defined by temporary, project-based, or on-demand work where there is no guarantee of long-term employment or traditional employee benefit. Based on Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, it reveals that 45% of Malaysians have engaged in gig work at some point. So we can clearly see that gig workers or gig work is not just a simple part-time jobs. It's a jobs that give a huge impact to our economy in Malaysia. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our panelists today. So our first panelist, Associate Professor Izzati Balkis, an economic policy specialist. So she will explain to us about the job opportunities and the impact of gig works on our economy. So how are you, Professor Izzati?
I'm in good health. Thank you, Mr. Mazhab. And you?
Okay, I'm good. I'm good. Alhamdulillah. All right. So for our second panelist, Mr. Irshad, he is a food panda delivery rider, and he will tell us about the challenges and the workers' right, because I think the if the challenges come from the worker himself, I think it's valid, and we can see the true nature about the gig workers in Malaysia. And our third panelist, Miss Nadira, a labor and employment law expert. She will explain to us about the policy, about the regulation, and the government support for this gig economy. And lastly, Ms. Kasih, an analyst in workforce economics, and she will explain to us about the digital transformation and the long-term prospect. Okay, for our first round of the forum, I think I want Professor Izzati Balkis to explain to us about the job opportunities and the impact of gig works on our economy in Malaysia. You can go, Prof. Izzati.
Thank you, Mr. Mazhab, for your wonderful description about the conceptual of the gig economy in Malaysia. Before I start my speech about job opportunities and economic impact, I would like to add some information about the gig work. Gig work can be divided into two main types, which are physical and digital. Physical gig work involves jobs done at specific places like driving, food delivery, or logistics. Meanwhile, digital gig work is done online from anywhere, such as writing, designing, or coding through the internet. First and foremost, when we think about the economic growth, we always think about the big factors that contribute to our country, which are factors as sports or tourism. But the reality is, the gig economy has quietly become the Malaysian safety valve by being the short absorber. What it means by that? Just like how the safety valve in a machine prevent it from exploding under pressure, they will actually act like that in our today's economy. The gig economy has stabilized Malaysian economy by preventing a rise in unemployment and keeping overall economic activity steady. Especially in times like COVID-19, where tourism and retail froze, gig economy like Grab and Foodpanda keep millions of Malaysians working. Today, the impact is today around 3 million Malaysians are in gig or freelance jobs. Thus, we can see that this stabilizes our consumer spending, which is the largest driver of Malaysian GDP. When more people remain employed and continue spending, it sustains our economic activity and prevents GDP contractions. Furthermore, another important contribution of the gig economy is how it unlocks productivity from things that used to sleep idle. For example, Cars that once take part in driveways are now generating income through in-drive or Grab. Or events, parents can be rented out through AMD, and even personal skills like writing, coding, or design can be sold to global clients on platforms such as Upwork, Fiverr, or MDET's the Rantau program. This shows that Malaysia is not just longer exporting goods, but we are now exporting skills. The income earned from these online jobs bring foreign exchange into the country without Malaysia having to work overseas. It also strengthens our service accounts and directly support GDP growth through the expanding digital economy. In short, the gig economy doesn't just create jobs, but it turns some assets and talent into the money. However, there are always two sides to every coin. And I believe that this about the struggles and the challenges will be covered more by Mr. Ishak. And now I actually concerned about the sustainable challenge of the income by the gig workers. To ensure long-term growth, the gig economy need to move from being informal to formal. This step matters because without social protection or savings, gig workers could become a financial burden in the future. Thus, to conclude in my part, the gig economy actually support the SDGA by keeping margin employed, training skills and assets into income, and boosting the digital economy. While there are risks if workers lack protection, its positive impact on jobs and economic growth is still undeniable. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Izati. So I think I gained some new information. Uh, Today I know that gig works has two types. There is physical and digital. And most of us only know the physical part of gig workers. For example, like Grab Food, like Food Panda, whose job is send food to others person. And we can see that from Prof. Izati information, gig works have his own benefits and also its challenges. So on the benefits part, it can stabilize our economy, for example, especially in COVID-19. And it can also unlock productivity of our economy in Malaysia, and also it creates a job for either student or old man who wants a job. And for the I will pass this to our that we can go to station.
Okay, so thank you to the moderator and also first panelist for their brilliant point. So now I would focus more on the challenges we face. Me personally, as the delivery riders that's deliver foods from home to home. So first, actually before I joined this forum, I was out on my bike completing orders. And actually I've been riding for 2 years now, and I want to share what this life is really like. So when you see the Grab or Food Panda icon on your phone, it looks like a simple service. But for us, it represents a 10 to 12 hours workday in the sun and rain. So in the journal I read before, I found that most of us are classified as independent contractors. That being put in simpler terms, this means we are on our own. If I don't write today, I don't get paid. So there's no income for that day. So there's no such thing as a fixed salary, paid sick leave, or safety net in my world. And every day I face a difficult choice. Do I write faster to earn more money, or do I write safely? So the research shows that our biggest worries are income instability and also road accidents. So some of the reality we face on the ground is, first, the income gap. While many things we earn a lot, the reality is that after paying for petrol and bike repairs, our take-home pay is often unstable and low. And next, for our own health is the when we work for very long hours, we would face severe fatigue. So when I'm tired, my focus would drop, and also that's where the some of the accidents risk might happen. So there are also some hidden risks that the customer do not see, but us the riders do. Some of it such as uh, I've been chased by dogs when delivering food. And also, there are some people that complain they face sexual harassment. And also, there are some angry customers because the restaurant prepared so slow. And lastly, there are no benefits for us. So we don't have enough extra money to contribute to our own EPF for our retirement fund or pay for our own private health insurance. Uh, but looking forward, their study shows that many riders actually have degrees or diplomas, but they do this work just because they cannot find other jobs that pay enough to support their families. Like me, myself, I do this because I want to provide for my loved ones. But thankfully, things are finally starting to change. With the Gig Workers Act 2025 passed last year, the 1.2 million gig workers in Malaysia are finally being recognized as a special legal category. So this law gives us a way to solve disputes through the Gig Workers Tribunal. And also in the budget 2026, the government is helping us to save for our futures through the ISRN Plus scheme, where they match our EPF savings up to 600 ringgit a year. They're also paying for our 70% of our SOXO costs to make sure we are insured while on the road. So to conclude my points regarding the challenges and our rights as gig workers in Malaysia, we actually not just a delivery partners. We are also a core part of the economy in Malaysia. We just want a future where our hard work is respected and our safety is protected. So that's all from me. I will pass back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ishad. So, based from your explanation before, we can see the real life of the gig workers itself. So, we can see that the gig workers does not have a fixed salary, has a bigger risk of accident and income stability, and also uh, if there is also a chance or a risk that they are being chased by dogs. So that is so sad for me. And Mr. Ishad also explained to us about the Malaysian gig workers right and also about the EPF ones. So I think these points uh, these points can be elaborated further by our third panelist, Ms. Nadira, and she will explain to us more about it, about the policy, about the regulation, and what the government give to these gig workers in Malaysia. So you can go, Ms. Nadira.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Before I start with my points, I would like to say that I absolutely agree with the points that was raised by the second panelist earlier, Mr. Ishad. Thank you, Mr. Ishad, for sharing with us the challenges faced by gig workers, especially since you are a gig worker yourself. Because in this regard of like lack of job security, unstable incomes, and limited protection of workers' right in the gig economy, these challenges are not isolated problems from what I am going to talk about. In fact, they stem from a deeper issue, which is the gap in policy and regulation governing gig work in Malaysia itself. Before I continue, I would like to just briefly ask Mr. Ishad, based on the challenges that you have discussed earlier, do you think the current legal framework in Malaysia is sufficient and adequate to protect gig workers' rights? Mr. Shah.
Okay, so based on the challenges that I explained before, and also the bill workers' right that being passed last year, I think there is a law that protect our right, but I don't think it is adequate for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Isha. That is an absolutely brilliant answer because this is what brings me to the policy perspective. Because when we look at the International Labour Organization data, platform-based work has expanded rapidly worldwide, but labor laws and regulation have not developed at the same pace. Which means that when we see in Malaysia, we have lots of gigs workers such as food delivery riders and e-hailing drivers, and they are all classified as self-employed or independent contractor, which in result will become very significant because this classification place gig workers outside the scope of traditional labor laws, where and it makes them not entitled to the key protection that has been supposedly they enjoyed, such as the minimum wage guarantees, paid leave, employment insurance, or income security. Now, one would ask me, what is the correlation of International Labour Organization data with what is happening in Malaysia? Worry not, because this concern has been supported by a study that was done in Malaysia by Tai Kewin and Siti Fatimah Muhammad, in which they has identified gig work as a form of non-standard employment, and it is not adequately covered under the existing labor law frameworks. In the Malaysian context, this makes it that a serious enforcement problem arise, because when gig workers fall outside the traditional employment definitions, government agencies that are supposed to govern over them have limited authority, and in turn workers will have fewer legal remedies when dispute or exploitation occurs. So, from a policy perspective and from a labor law expert such as myself, I think that labor law reform is therefore very necessary, because especially when we look at Malaysia specifically, as Mr. Ishad said earlier, there are some legal regulations that has been proposed to help with gig workers, like the SOCSO itself, but SOCSO does provide protection for work-related injuries and accidents, and it shows that government recognize there are risks faced by gig workers. However, it is still remains as limited because it does not address the broader concerns such as income stability, job security, or long-term social protection. So in other words, we'll just say that these government initiatives, they do help with protection, they do measure some just a little help, but they do not fully close the legal protection gap. Therefore, stronger and more comprehensive policy intervention is needed. This includes amendment to labor laws, the introduction of gig-specific regulations, and mandatory protection mechanism that can help balance flexibility with the workers' right. Such reforms are very essential, in my opinion, to ensure that the growth of the gig economy can support the decent work and sustainable economy growth, which is in line with SDGA, rather than just leaving workers in a vulnerable and unprotected position. I think that's all for my part. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Miss Nadira, for your explanation. So, from what I understand, gig workers or gig work is a self-employed, or we call it as an independent character. So it means that, Miss Nadira, it means that gig work, what Miss Nadira just said just now, what Miss Nadira said just now, it means that they are not entitled for workers privilege or workers protection. For example, like the insurance, they don't have insurance, they don't have protection to protect themselves, and many others. And also in Malaysia right now, there is no specific regulation for these gig workers. So it's limit is they have only a limited authority for gig workers. So it means that gig workers does not have entirely uh, entirely the best regulation to help them in this in Malaysian gig economy for now. And we can also, we from Miss Nadira explanation, we can also see that stronger policy is needed for for stronger policy is needed for a mandatory for and also mandatory protection is needed for gig workers, so that their protection is being take care of in our in Malaysia, in our economy in Malaysia. So, and lastly, I think for Miss Kasih, from what Miss Nadira said just now, I think we have talked about the policy, we have talked about the challenge, we have talked about the job opportunities. So right now, about the digital transformation and long-term prospects for this gig economy or gig workers? So, Ms. Cassie.
Thank you, Mr. Amar, and that was a great point from other panelists. So my name is Kasih, and I'm an analyst in workforce economics. And my focus today is on how digital labor platforms and technological innovations are reshaping the future of work in Malaysia. So I will be specifically examining how this shift impacts resilience and fairness, directly linking to our progress to SDG 8, which are decent work and economic growth. So before we go through the data, I would like to offer a point of critical reflection. So while we celebrate the flexibility of gig economy as a breakthrough in worker autonomy, as an economist, I must challenge whether this flexibility truly an empowered choice for the Malaysian worker, or is it becoming a necessity-driven trap due to the lack of stable alternative in the formal sector? We must ensure that digital transformation does not result in hiding the reality of unstable, insecure jobs that lacks benefit and exploiting workers. So to support my analysis, I have selected the International Labour Organization's ILO's report titled World Employment and Social Outlook 2021, the role of digital labour platforms in transforming the world of work. So this evidence-based publications provides the global credibility and policy-oriented depth necessary to navigate this complex economic shift in Malaysia. So according to ILO, digital labour platforms have significantly expanded job opportunities by promoting flexible, task-based work, especially in industries like ride-hailing, food delivery, and online freelancing, such as Grab, Foodpanda, and other various freelance platforms. So these platforms offer income opportunities to students, part-time workers, and individuals who does not fit into traditional full-time employment. So from an economic perspective, this flexibility helps to increase our labour market participation and supports economic growth, particularly in times of uncertainty, such as during economic downturns and rising living costs. So many workers turn to gig work as a way to supplement their income, making it an important component of Malaysia's evolving digital economy. However, while these platforms create opportunities, the ILO report also highlights several serious sustainability challenges. One major issue is the income instability, as gig workers' earnings depends heavily on the demand and platform algorithms. So in addition to that, many gig workers lack basic social security protection, such as health insurance, employment injury coverage, or retirement benefits. So there is also a clear imbalance of bargaining power, where platforms control the pay rates and working conditions, and the workers have limited ability to negotiate. So without effective legal frameworks and policy interventions, these challenges could threaten the long-term sustainability of the gig economy. Gig work may remain flexible, but it may not be secure or fair, which contradicts the idea of decent work under SDG 8. So in the Malaysian context, these ILO reports provide a strong foundation for discussing how the country can develop a resilient and inclusive gig workforce while continuing to support its digital transformation agenda. So to achieve a balance between flexibility and fairness, several policy approaches can be considered. So this includes expanding social security coverage for gig workers, encouraging skills development and upskilling to improve long-term employability, and ensuring greater accountability from digital platforms in protecting workers' rights. So with the right policies and regulatory support, the gig economy has the potential not only to drive economic growth, but also to provide sustainable and decent work opportunities for Malaysian workers in the long term. That's it from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kasih, for your information just now. So we can see that uh, for the part of digital transformation and long-term prospects, so we can see that in the future, gig economy is a has their own flexibility, and also gig economy in the future, it cannot be a main job for a person. Like Kasih said before, gig workers or gig economy do their works as gig workers just to supplement their income, just to supplement their income, so that it can gain more wages for their income to provide to their family. So to wrap up our forum for today, we can see that one thing is clear: what gig economy is no longer just a side hustle, It is a cornerstone of the Malaysian economy. We have heard how digital platforms are creating jobs for over a million people, but we also have addressed the urgent need for a safety net. The Gig Workers Act 2025 and the new Gig Workers Tribunal are massive step forwards, but they are just the beginning. True success will depend on whether we can maintain the flexibility workers love while ensuring they have the dignity and the security they deserve. So, let's not wait for the next crisis to act. So let's continue this partnership between the government, between the platforms and workers to make Malaysia a global leader in a fair digital world. So thank you for our all panelists. Thank you for all audience who comes to our forum just now. And thank you everyone. So see you later.